Mentorship. We are going to be looking today at some amazing qualities of mentorship that Paul displayed with Timothy. So stay tuned. Hey fellow soldiers, let's sharpen our swords together as we dive deep in the scriptures. We are going to begin a new study in the next few weeks of Paul's private letters. And we're going to be looking at the first letter that he wrote to Timothy. This is the book of 1 Timothy in the New Testament. It is the longest letter of all. It is 6 chapters. And before we look at this amazing letter that Paul wrote to Timothy, we're going to be looking at who Timothy was and where he was from. Timothy was from a city in Galatia, and which is present-day Turkey. And Timothy was part Jew and part Gentile. In fact, his mother was a Jew. She was a converted Jew. She was a Christian Jew. And Timothy's father was a Gentile. He was a Greek, and he was not converted. And Paul met Timothy in Paul's first missionary journey when he's going through the cities in Galatia. And you can remember one of the books of the New Testament is Galatians, and that is one of the books that Paul authored. He wrote that book to the church of Galatia, which is where Timothy's from. Now, the second missionary journey that Paul takes, he goes through those same cities that he went through in his first missionary journey, and he goes through the cities in Galatia. And this is when Timothy starts traveling with Paul. He becomes converted, and he starts traveling with Paul in his missionary journeys. He becomes an evangelist. This was the beginning of a 10-year-long mentorship relationship between Paul and Timothy. Paul and Timothy become very close, and Paul displays some amazing qualities of mentorship into the lives of Timothy and Titus. And Titus we'll actually get to in a couple weeks. So what is the first quality that Paul displays with Timothy? The first amazing mentorship quality that Paul displays with Timothy is he equips Timothy. You know, you have to remember that Christianity is new on the scene. There are a lot of debates going on. There are a lot of hot topics, a lot of issues being discussed, being debated, disagreements. And one of the hot topics during this time was circumcision. You know, circumcision was what began in the Old Testament. It was the sign of the covenant. It was for males, right? And when Jesus came to live on this earth, when he died on the cross, when he was buried, when he rose again, this is when the law was fulfilled, and we now live under grace. And so circumcision is no longer part of Christianity. But some Christians believed that circumcision should still be part of Christianity. And so there was some debate with that. And you have to remember, we looked at Paul's life the last class session, and we know that he grew up as a very educated man, really knew the law, knew the ins and outs of, he grew up as a Pharisee. He was a Pharisee before he became converted to Christianity. And so he knew all the ins and outs of these debates, how to defend them, how to debunk them, since he was a Christian. And so he poured all of that into Timothy, and he was equipping him. Now, Timothy was not circumcised, and so since circumcision was a hot topic, he was going to make this missionary journey for Timothy less stressful for him. One less thing that he would have to debate, have to defend. And so he actually had Timothy circumcised, since his mother was Jewish. And this is actually recorded in Acts chapter 16, verses 1 through 3. So Timothy is actually circumcised, and he is propagating the gospel of Christ. So for Paul to equip Timothy, especially with this hot topic of circumcision, that's one thing for us mentors to look at. We really need to look at what our strengths are, right? Because those are the qualities that we want to pour in to younger people. And that's exactly, what Paul knew. He knew exactly what his strengths were, and he was equipping Timothy in this area. The other amazing quality that I see with Paul in mentoring Timothy is that Paul is encouraging Timothy. Timothy is actually in the city of Ephesus when Paul writes this letter to him. And you have to remember, the letters that we looked at, his prison letters, the Christians at Ephesus were the only Christians who did not come to visit Paul when he was going through his darkest time. And so Ephesus was a very wealthy city. It was a major trade port. And it is very hard when you're going through mountaintops of life, very good times in life, to see your need for Christ. I think that's probably one reason why there was not one single Christian from the church of Ephesus that came to visit Paul, because they could not relate to the dire situation that he was in. They were in a wealthy city. They were flourishing. And Timothy is there, and it is a hard mission field. And Paul is actually encouraging Timothy. Timothy is outside his comfort zone. He is on this mission field. It's a hard mission field. And Paul is treating him like an adult. He has this responsibility, right, with ministering to this hard mission field of Ephesus, the city of Ephesus. And but he's not just kind of putting it in his lap. He's actually encouraging him. He's guiding him throughout this entire process. And that is so powerful. Those two qualities that I see with Paul displaying with Timothy, that he's equipping him, and that secondly, he's encouraging him. Mentorship, we kind of tend to think that mentorship is basically when you're older, right? But mentorship can begin as a teenager. It can begin in your teenage years and work all the way to the very last days of your life. And mentorship is a very valuable tool tool to use in our lives to pour into others. As teenagers, elementary age kids just love to be around teenagers, right? They would love to shoot hoops with you or love to throw the football with you in your backyard, And so it can begin as a teenager all the way up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a long relationship. Timothy and Paul's relationship was over a decade. And it doesn't have to be something so long and so connected as their relationship. It could be something so small as just a passing with a stranger throughout your day. Pouring encouraging words. If you see them doing something, compliment them on what they're doing. It could just be something so simple as that. And just that small moment of even a smile or even some encouraging words can really boost someone's morale and really make them feel confident. Satan, he absolutely hates when we help each other. He hates when we pour into others. I don't know of one single individual in which, someone has strengths in every single area. We all have weaknesses. We all have strengths. And knowing that our strengths and pouring that into others can be so invaluable for other people. A young person who's getting this strength poured into them from this individual and a differing strength from another individual and then differing strength from another individual can be so empowering for that young person. And, it's not something, light or, doesn't mean anything. It totally means something. It is very special and very empowering for an individual. And, so let's look at these mentoring qualities that Paul uses with Timothy. He equips him and he encourages him. That is my spiritual food for you to munch on the rest of the week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. I can't wait to see you next week.